Starting now. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Well, let's get through this part. I'm going to read it as fast as I have ever read it. Called to order. I'm Ann Stunts to conduct this meeting wholly electronically and to effectuate both the emergency procedures and authorized by FOIA and the emergency ordinance this board needs to make certain findings and determinations for the record. It's a bit cumbersome, but I ask you in advance for your patience. First, because each member of this board is participating in this meeting from a separate location, we must verify that a quorum of members is participating. Each member's voice is clear, audible, and at the appropriate volume for all the other members. Accordingly, I'm going to conduct a roll call. Well, Winifred is going to conduct a roll call and ask each board member participating at this meeting to state your name and location from which you are participating. I ask that each of you pay close attention to ensure that you can hear your colleagues. Following this roll call, we will vote to establish that every member can hear every other member. Winifred, would you be okay doing the roll call for us?
Yes, that would be fine. Okay. Mary Lipsy.
You ready for?
Mary Lipsy's here in Springfield.
Gretchen Boulevard.
Gretchen Boulevard in Fairfax.
Kara Herrick. Kara Herrick. Okay. Greg Wilson.
Greg Wilson in Great Falls.
All right.
Say that name again. You're breaking up a little bit.
Okay. Elise Murray.
Elise Murray in the town of Vienna.
Barbara Niff. Barbara Niff.
Okay.
Unmute.
Nathan Reston.
Ann Stunts.
I'm here in just outside Vienna, Virginia.
Steve Sherman.
Steve Sherman in Franconia.
Okay. Phyllis Walker Ford.
Phyllis Walker Ford, Clifton, Virginia.
Okay. Barbara Peters.
Barbara Peters in Annandale, Virginia.
Okay. Ann Barnes. Ann Barnes.
Don't see her.
Okay. Sally Lyons.
Colchester, Lorton, Virginia.
Okay. Tammy Manarino.
I'm here in Mount Vernon, Virginia.
Okay. Lynn B. Hodge. Garvey Hodge. Jordan Tenenbaum.
He said he might be late.
Okay. Esther McCullough.
Esther McCullough, Vernon, Virginia, Sully.
Okay. Cheryl Rapetti. Cheryl Rapetti. Okay. And then Robert Beach.
Here, Fairfax, Virginia. Member at large.
Okay. And next, David Mayer.
I am here in the city of Fairfax.
Okay, I think that's it for the commissioners. Is anybody?
Okay,
else?
thank you so much. At this,
You're welcome.
Any commission members missed?
Yeah, and may I chime in? There's a caller on the line, 703-533. Can you identify yourself, please?
Robert Beach.
Okay.
Thanks, Bob. So I thought it might be Carol.
Yeah, I expect a few people are running late or having some technical difficulties. So now I get to pass my gavel, but I don't know who to pass it to because Jordan's not here. Does it matter, Denise?
No.
But somebody on the exec.
Okay, I'm going to pass it.
Barbara is
I'm
your.
going to pass it to. I'm going to pass it to Barbara Peters. Over to you, Barbara Peters.
Okay,
Got
thank you.
it?
Have it.
Okay. I move that each member's voice may be adequately heard by each other member of this board. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
And I'm here right now, so you can add me in too. Lynn Garvey Hawk.
What voice is that? Oh, hi, Lynn.
Hi, guys.
Welcome.
Thanks.
Any nay or abstentions? Second, having established that each member's voice may be heard by every other member, we must establish the nature of the emergency that compels these emergency procedures, the fact that we're meeting electronically, what type of electronic communication is being used, and how we have arranged for public access to this meeting. Therefore, I move that the state of emergency caused by the COVID-19 pandemic makes it unsafe for this board to physically assemble and unsafe for the public to physically attend any such meeting, and that as such, FOIA's usual procedures which require the physical assembly of this board and the physical presence of the public cannot be implemented safely or practically. I further move that this board may conduct this meeting electronically through a dedicated telephone line, and that the public may access this meeting by WebEx virtual meeting. Attendee call-in 1408-418-9388, event number 173-030-86212. It is so moved. Is there a second?
Second.
I second.
All in favor? Thank you. All in favor say aye.
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 Wave your hands around. Thank you. Any opposed? Any nays? The motion passes. Finally, it is next required that all the matters addressed on today's agenda must address the state of emergency itself, are necessary for continuity in Fairfax County government, and are statutorily required or necessary to continue operations and the discharge of this board's lawful purposes, duties, and responsibilities. It is so moved. Is there a second?
Second.
I didn't catch which.
Aye.
Barbara seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. My gavel back. I get the gavel back.
I'm returning the gavel to you, Ann.
Thank you very much. Okay, we are moving right along to, we're going to try to get this meeting done because we've got a packed schedule, but I am delighted that we are going to take some time to learn more about the park bond. Thank you guys for agreeing to shorten up, tighten up your presentation. We've all seen that beautiful PowerPoint, and we're particularly looking forward to learning about cultural resource stewardship. It's a quite a bond issue. Over to you, Judy.
Well, thank you very much. And just as a reminder to the team, let's move briskly through the presentation so that we can not take too much time. It's so nice to see so many familiar faces. So thank you and welcome. Hannah, do you have access to take over the PowerPoint?
She's getting it now.
Okay, as soon as she's going, we are going to breeze through these slides. Let me start by introducing some of my presenters. If you'll go ahead to the second slide, Hannah.
Sure thing.
We're going to have John Burke speaking with Natural Resources Branch Manager, Dr. Crowell, who will acknowledge us as her Archaeology and Collections Branch Manager, Andrea Dorlester, Development Review Section Chief, myself, and Paul Shirey, Project Management Branch Manager. So we did agree to move swiftly through the program. I want to remind folks to please keep that in mind. Next slide, please. As you know, the 2020 Park Bond Referendum is on the ballot. We're about less than a month away. Absentee and early balloting is already underway. General obligation bonds, they just make a whole lot of sense. They're the primary way that we pay for capital improvements, and renovations. And this bond, you might see it on the ballot for $112 million. That figure includes the Northern Virginia Regional Park Authority. The Park Authority would get $100 million. Next slide, please. So, why do we use bonds? Well, they do cover the cost of developing that, our user fees simply could not cover. And the bond spreads the cost of major projects over many years and ensures not only that the residents today, but future residents, they all have to pay into the pot. It also allows our projects to be built sooner, and it's considered to be prudent long-term debt. Next slide, please. So we've been doing bonds a very, very long time. In 1959, we did a bond for $4 million. And I think we had about, I'm sure one of the historians could tell me, maybe 15 acres. Now we're looking at in 2016, it was a $94.7 million bond, and we are approaching 24,000 acres. So how we have grown. Next slide, please. All right, at this point, it is my pleasure to welcome Andy Dorlester.
To remember to unmute. Hello, everyone. So the bond referendum is just one tool that we use to provide our capital infrastructure in the park system. The county's capital improvement budget is another source. And then a third tool is the Park Authority's needs assessment. It's something we complete every 10 years. The last time we did that was in 2016. The study uses research, surveys, and analysis to help the Park Authority better understand what our customers need from the park system. And from that, we got recommendations for capital investment framework. It informed the capital improvement program. And if you're interested, you can find it on our website. Next slide. So the 2016 assessment looked into many service areas of the Park Authority using various methods of analysis, including a statistically valid community survey, which asked Fairfax residents how they feel about their local park and rec facilities and what investments we should make in the future. Next. So every time we do a needs assessment, we do a statistically valid resident survey. And we even ask some of the same questions each time so that we can look at trends over time. We did this with a consultant to ensure that the survey was administered in a scientifically valid way, so that we can use the results and be able to rely on them. We have to have a minimum number of responses, and in 2016 we needed to receive 3,000 responses. But we received 50% more than that, so we can say we have a very high level of confidence in the results. And because we have such a high level of confidence, it's served as a great guide for decision making. Next. So Fairfax residents use their parks 8% more than the national average, and 87% of resident households visited a park in the previous year prior to when they did the survey. Next. So 87% is an increase from previous survey results, as you can see from this bar chart. And it shows that the need in the community is growing. But you can also see from the chart that our usage has always been high, relatively high. So sustained use and the strain on the system with a slight increase in usage in recent years. Next. So the number of residents that rated parks as extremely important or very important was 93%, important to their quality of life. So we have a population that recognizes the benefit of high quality local parks on their lives. And we know that parks are important to our residents and that they use them a lot. Next.
Wow.
So this is comparing to importance of quality of life than in the past. So you can see that while it's always been high, this measure increased somewhat dramatically from previous surveys. up 13% since the last time we asked the question. Next. So the story changed a little when we asked about overall satisfaction. In 2016, only 57% of residents were satisfied with the park system compared to previous years. This dip in satisfaction rating might be linked to shrinking resources that occurred after the Great Recession, when budget cuts were implemented across the county government, and we have a backlog of maintenance work throughout our park system. The public's expectations are up, but funding is down, as well as staffing levels. So next. So here's one final question from the needs assessment that I'll share. We asked respondents how they would spend $100 on parks and asked them to allocate the money to various categories. And residents said that over 50% of their budget would go to repairing, maintaining, and upgrading existing parks, meaning they would like to reinvest in the park system. They would also spend $18 on conserving and maintaining natural and historic resources, $17 on acquiring new parkland, and $13 on developing new facilities. Next. So what does all this mean? Park use is always high, but it is increasing. The importance to quality of life is at an all-time high. However, overall satisfaction is decreasing. So increasing use paired with decreased funding is producing increased wear and tear. Our parks just can't keep up. So we use this information, including how residents would spend the $100, to help inform how we propose to spend the money in the 2020 bond. So now I will hand it over to, I think, Paul Shirey.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yep.
Who will tell you more about the 2020 bond proposal.
All right. And can you hear me, Andy? I just want to make sure I'm unmuted.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, thanks. So yeah, this pie chart represents the distribution of different project types in the 20 bond, and it mimics what Andy was showing you with the survey data we got back. So most folks want to see renovations and upgrades to the existing park system. So that comes in at 53%. That's the green area. And basically our park system's 30 to 40 plus years old, and a lot of facilities are aging and at the end of their life cycle. So we need a large infusion of funds to renovate all those facilities. So then moving around clockwise there, the purple sector is the natural and cultural resources, stewardship, and we'll get into all these in more detail, but this is just an overview. So that comes in at 12%. And then there's land acquisition and open space preservation. That's in at 7%. And then some of that land that we acquire actually goes then into new park development. Most of it's for preservation, but some then it spills over to new parks. So that comes in at 28%. Next slide, please. All right, so a sampling of the types of projects you get in this one category, that large green one with the renovations and upgrades, is at South Run at the rec center. There's improvements there to the field house. And then over at Providence District Rec Center, there's improvements to the fitness center, and then to make that more user-friendly. Out at Cub Run Rec Center, there's some family improvements like a child care facility and other similar user upgrades. And then one of the major projects is the Audrey Moore Rec Center, which it's proposed to have a $20 million renovation, and then followed in a future year by an actual expansion of that facility with perhaps in the 2024 bond. So then Lee District Rec Center also is there's a proposal for a fitness center improvement and other user improvements there. And then there's a parking lot upgrade out at the Turner Farm Park for equestrian uses. And then in each bond cycle, we try to have a Masterbrook grant program where entities and user groups and sports leagues often partner with us to install facilities like athletic lighting and concession stands and things like that, and other types of improvements. And so the county matches, Park Authority matches up to $20,000 for the user. Next slide, please. All right, and a few other project types in this category. Yeah, somebody's got a dog out there.
Yeah, sorry.
If I can mute that. All right, thanks. So all our playgrounds, lighting, irrigation systems, picnic shelters, restrooms, and trails and bridges are all constantly degrading. So there's projects to improve these facilities around the county, and it's on a priority basis as to how bad the facilities are or when they were installed. There's also upgrade to the Down Terrace Park, renovations there, improvements out at Lake Fairfax Park, and then our golf courses. There's two major irrigation systems, the Laurel Hill and Oakmar, that need renovation and replacement. And then two other parks, Mount Vernon Woods and McLean Central, are getting renovations and upgrades that are proposed in the bond. All right, next slide, please. Okay, I just want to check. John Burke, are you going to cover this slide?
Yeah, I'll cover this one.
Okay, thanks.
Hey, good evening, everybody. So in addition to the services, recreational opportunities, and upgrades that the bond will provide, the bond also supports the Natural Resources Program for Fairfax County Park Authority. It allows us to remain good stewards of the environment and allows us to continue to use ecological best practices to meaningfully contribute to the protection, enhancement, and maintenance of natural resources on our properties. In addition to that, though, it allows us to support a fourth tenet of the Natural Resources branch, which is knowing what we have, and that is having a good idea of what natural resources are present on park property. So as part of that, there's two initiatives within this bond that would support being more familiar and more aware of the natural resources inventory on Park Authority. These are regional natural resources management plans, and we've got two in this bond, one in the northern area of Fairfax and one in the central area of Fairfax. These natural resource management plans will allow us to inventory, plan, and inform ecological restorations in these parts of Fairfax County. It will allow us to partner with the Virginia Department of Conservation to bring on botanists and wildlife experts to identify potential habitat for rare animals as well as rare floristic communities. The first one will be the Northern Regional Plan, and that will occur in portions of Hunter Mill, Drainesville, Providence, Braddock, and Sully districts. The second one will be the Central Plan, and that will cover portions of Providence, Braddock, Mason, Springfield, and Mount Vernon districts. In addition to these efforts, the bond will also support the Helping Our Land Heal program, which is a natural resources restoration program where we identify areas of forested grassland and wetlands on our properties that we can restore. This is countywide. And in addition to that, the bond will allow the Park Authority to continue with its outreach and engagement endeavors for natural resources by supporting the design of a new visitor center at Riverbend Park. Thank you.
All right, thanks, John. Next slide there. Okay, so one of the major projects in this bond cycle is phase one of our archaeology and collection storage facility. So this is slated to go out in the Workhouse Arts campus. There's an existing building adjacent to the campus, and this is slated to be renovated to accommodate the collections. So we have another slide on that I'll get to in a minute, but that's in a nutshell, that's a major project. Yeah, here you go. So yeah, why don't you head or
sorry, Paul, which one you want?
Yeah, just stay on this one for a second.
Okay.
So anyway, here's renderings. We're in the schematic design phase, which just gets us up to where we're putting dimensions on things. So these are conceptual in nature, the renderings there, but these are the types of ideas we're looking at. And as I mentioned, it's adjacent to the Workhouse Arts. And this will house about 24,000 square feet of collection, storage, lab, research, and other space. So the collections will continue to be available to the public for research. And right now, as you may know, these are scattered around the county in different locations. So this will consolidate all those facilities. And then, Hannah, if you go back to the previous slide for just a minute, I'll touch on that. So we also have funding to support the resident curator program, where, as you know, historic structures are then leased and there's certain improvements done. But often as we're getting these facilities ready for lease agreements, we need to improve the utilities or sometimes put in new wells or tie those into the public water or put in new sanitary systems, whether septic or tying into the county sewer. So those are some of the improvements to get those ready. And then there's a project for ongoing support of all our capital projects to do the necessary archaeology studies in support of those projects.
Hey, Paul.
So
I just want to jump in and say, I know that this is why we were invited, or so if we could pause here and maybe take some questions. I know that Liz is with us as well, and I know Denise is here in case there's any questions about RCP. So if there's any questions from the assembly, we'd be glad to answer them, because I know that this is really and truly where your heart is at in terms of some of the projects we're doing.
I'd like to know about the Mastonbrook grants. Are they always financial matching, or are there other options?
right, so the user group makes a proposal to the Park Authority. Sometimes it's in-kind services. So I've seen where, you know, they might do part of the construction for a facility, something like that. So it can be in-kind services. Usually it is a cash contribution, and then Park Authority will match up to $20,000.
Thank you.
It takes Park Authority board approval, so it gets written up for an item and then subject to approval.
Any other questions on this portion of our presentation?
I understand that the wing that's going onto the building that's shown in the building is actually going to be deferred for a later bond issue. Is that right?
For which facility?
The collections facility, archaeology and collections.
So I'm not sure which slide's up right now, but the renderings, Hannah, could you put the slide up that was the specific slide for that facility? Yeah, all those concepts there, it's under design, so I can't say what we'll end up with. This would be ideal, but we got to fit it into the budget we have. So we're working through that right now in the design phase. So I can't say it's off the table, but I don't know that it'll look exactly like that. It might be a little smaller.
Okay, thank you.
And I know one of the things was that, you know, initially there was, the idea was that there would be more space, but that space will be, you know, there will be follow on in a later bond if, you know, as the space is needed.
This will be a multi-phase project, as I understand it. Mm-hmm.
Right. But it's a pretty good sized facility. The existing building, if you look at the Workhouse Arts, you can see it in Google Map. It's a blue roofed building adjacent to the Workhouse Center there. So it's a good size. And then what you're seeing in this rendering is in addition onto that existing building.
Right.
All right.
Is the 24,000 square feet the end goal, or at what is that all the phases together, or is it how's that stack up?
Liz, could you answer that one? I'm not sure of the actual storage.
I can get back to you on the final amount as far as the square footage, unless Megan lining on?
Yeah, I saw her.
Yeah, we'll be glad to finalize.
Yeah, I can get you the square footage because it's, you know, it's under design at the moment.
Right. So, and whatever number we put out, it's approximate at this time until.
Correct. I mean, because this
Yes.
is still conceptual.
So it's probably one of those things that Liz and Megan, you could take as much as anybody will give you, right? If it's anything like some of the collections I know.
I
It's
can
quite
say
good looking.
I'm not sure exactly what the entirety of the amounts are, but I know that the collection's storage space is probably, for the historic collections, is going to be around 5,000 square feet. So there is a lot of square footage taken up with labs and other things. So yeah, the 2,400 is not like just collection storage space. That's only about 5,000.
No,
so.
no. No, I think the slide was good on that. Look at it, curatorial lab. That will make a nice change.
Let's see, Paul, do we have the Riverbend Park Visitor Center slides, or Hannah? Or was it just?
I'm not sure. The next one I'm seeing would be Colvin Run Mill.
Okay.
So if we start back up there.
Go ahead.
So a real interesting project we have underway is out at Colvin Run Mill, and it's to replace most of the wheel that you see in the photo. So we have some white oak, a special kind of white oak that's been acquired and is being fabricated right now for the replacement of that, the wheel components. And then let's see, so there was original funding in the 2012 bond, but this 2016 bond is funding this improvement, and we're scheduled to have this operational by the second quarter in 2021 calendar year. And then, yeah, Judy, I'm not sure about the Riverbend Visitor Center slide.
So Hannah said she can pull it up. Why don't we, Hannah, if you go ahead and pull up the Riverbend slide, we'll carry that one forward. And then we'll just do a couple of real quick touches on some of the other projects. And
right.
We don't want to overstep our welcome. Hannah, when you've got the Riverbend Park slide up, we'll just take a look at what that visitor center is going to look like.
Yeah, I don't think we have any rendering of that. It's really that one slide I recall seeing had the master plan.
Okay. All right. Well, why don't you go ahead and proceed then, Paul? Let's run through them quickly.
Right, but if you're interested in where that Riverbend Visitor Center will go, if you look at the current master plan on the Park Authority website, it's in a location that's up out of the floodplain. The current facility is subject to flooding, and that'll remain as a boat operation facility. Okay, so let's go down to the land acquisition and open space slide, and you can go on to the next one after that. Okay, so in each bond cycle, we try to acquire lands that align with our goals and strategic initiatives. So some of the criteria we look at for that is listed in this that one slide there. And so there's things like proximity to existing parkland, the size of the parcel, just the overall quality of the land and the soils and so forth, the vegetation. So a lot of this land then gets preserved as open space, but then some of it then goes on to the next stage of a design phase and then on to new park development, which is the next slide. And so just to highlight some of the, yeah, next slide, Hannah, please. So a few highlights from the new park development at the Mount Vernon Rec Center. Based on a sustainability study that we had for marketability of the rec centers, was proposed as a second ice rink out at this rec center. This one's really old, and so it's due for a major renovation, which was funded with the 2016 bond, but the second rink will be in this bond. Another new project that's in the design phase currently is Ruckstall Park, and so in this bond, we get the funding for the actual construction of this park. And then another major project is the Patriot Park North tournament baseball complex. This is out on Braddock Road near the Fairfax Parkway. And then there's funding included in the bond for starting the design of the Salona Park. That would be a new park. And then there's always a share of the bond for new trails and then stream crossings. So that rounds out all the different project types and a lot of the highlights. So we can go on up to the question slide now.
Yeah, so yes, if there are any other questions, we would be glad to take them. Otherwise, we'll be glad to let you proceed with your meeting, whatever your pleasure.
Who's got a question? I think, we cheated and got the slides ahead of time. And, but I guess a few of us have voted already, probably. And I will as soon as I can get to my satellite place. But this is exciting. We all benefit. So thank you. Thank you so much to Judy, Andy, John, Paul, Liz, Megan. You're here anyway. But yeah, if there are no questions, you guys are off released for the night.
But we
Thank you so much.
appreciate the opportunity and good night. Thank you.
Right. Thanks a lot.
All right, thanks a
Thank
lot.
you.
Bye-bye. Oh, and I would say, if you want to stay on, of course you're welcome. It's really always very fascinating. Okay. So we're on to, if I'm reading my agenda right, we're on to the chairman's remarks. I had to write them down so I don't rattle on and on for you. I have 5, okay? 1, did Mary ever get onto the call? I'm not sorry, Mary's, did Carol get onto the call?
Yes, yes. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Good.
Well,
yes.
Ann, I had a question for the people that just left, and I was hollering. I guess nobody could hear me. You can hear me now.
I guess we couldn't. Yes.
Okay.
And that brings up a good point. Usually we read a thing that looks like this about the etiquette and things, but we know everything. But I do think one of the hard things in this group is to get each other's attention. You just have to wave your arms around and make noise. So I don't think there are many, let me look at you. There are not many shy people on here. So
Carol is on
just do the best you can.
And that's the problem.
I know.
Carol's on the phone.
I know.
Yeah. So.
I know. And then also, if you're not on the phone, you can try this chatting if it's about technical things. Right, Denise?
I have a question. I have a question.
Question?
Yeah. The other commissioner that came in later, I don't have their locations.
Okay. Let's go over that. We've got Carol. Carol, tell us who you are and where you are.
I'm in McLean, Carol Herrick.
Okay, and then
did you get
Lynn Garvey Hodge?
Did you get Lynn?
I don't have her location.
Lynn? She was on.
I'm here.
Odds are it's Cliff.
Okay.
Okay.
And then Commissioner report.
Yeah, I'm here in Centerville. Sorry about the late arrival.
And Commissioner Tenenbaum.
Yes, I'm back in Fairfax, Virginia.
Okay, I think that does it. Thank you.
We're all here. I don't see Ann Barnes. She might have had to miss it, and I forgot. Okay. All right. Now that that's all in order, thank you, Winifred. Let's whip through some chairman's remarks. Nominations committee's been formed because this is the time of year we do this. It's chaired by Carol Herrick, and I think I'm right that it's Bob Beach and Phyllis Walker Ford.
Correct.
Is that right?
Correct.
They will present us a slate in November, and we will vote in December, and whoever wins will take office in January. So that's per our bylaws. And so that's number one. Now, number two. Last month, Jordan drafted that letter regarding the Rosenwald schools. It said, among other things, I am delighted to inform you that the Fairfax County History Commission voted earlier this month to become an official supporter of the Julius Rosenwald and Rosenwald Schools Act of 2019. So that happened, and I finally shared it with the Board of Supervisors. 3, as I emailed to you recently, we were asked to find 2 people who can attend next Tuesday, the 13th staff meeting to evaluate the expressions of interest on the disposition of cannons and the granite marker at the courthouse. Mary is one volunteer. Is there anybody else who's available and would like to be part of that process? You'll probably get the list of and the information about each place on Monday, and then get to review it. Remind me, it's at 1 or 1:30?
1:30.
I wrote it down.
1:30.
Okay. Okay, so I'm not hearing or seeing any arms waving around. So we'll have to strong arm somebody to go. And we'll do that unless Denise, I need to name them at this meeting.
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, so we'll find somebody who's available, and you all want to. That's the third one. Now we're number 4. Also, I emailed you recently that newsletter, excerpts from the newsletter of Supervisor Harity. I didn't notice until later that the second half, which I hadn't read as carefully, had a correction that we need to put on the record. It states incorrectly that Fairfax City was not consulted before the September 15 public hearing. And in fact, staff did, of course, contact the city, because I think that was a sort of an obvious first step. So I wanted to make sure if you did read that and went, wait, why didn't they? Well, they did. Okay, last but not least, I bet a lot of you tuned in to the September 15 hearing, and I know of only one of us who actually attended. But before I get to her, I'd like to recognize and thank all the other non-History Commission members, the local historians who showed up. They testified at the public hearing regarding the courthouse items. They sat there in a public meeting, which I have not done in a long, long time. And it ran late. They probably didn't go on till 2 hours after it was scheduled. And they're not all youngsters, as you might have noticed. And they did this to share the history, the importance of this county's history. And so I just wanted to say, I was very proud of them. I was grateful for their input and their enthusiasm. And we know that a lot of these people have just put in thousands of hours researching and sharing history of our county. So thanks to them. And then, of course, our own Mary Lipsey was in the building and in the room for many, many hours also. And she made the unforgettable, now famous statement along the lines of, there are 3 Civil War stories to tell. There's the North, there's the South, and there's the African American. So thank you for that, Mary. All right, that's all I have to say on that. Now we'll move through the agenda. I see in terms of commissioners excused, we are missing Ann Barnes, so she probably emailed me. Is there anyone else that, well, you'll let me know. Staff recognition. Are there any staff members who are not already on the agenda? Denise, did you notice?
Sorry, I was muted. No, I did not know. Megan Lining, I'm sorry, and I don't have the agenda, but Megan Lining is here and
Yes.
Chris Barbershek. Chris from the Virginia room.
Oh, now we have someone new on here. I want you, if you look at this is very exciting. I have not heard this formally, but we have a new name because we have a new history commissioner. I don't know her precise date, but maybe last week, Sue Kovacs-Schumann. So hello, Sue. She's on this call somehow in the magic of WebEx. So welcome, Sue.
Thank you.
We look forward to working with you.
I'm excited.
Yeah, they were lucky to good. They were lucky to find you. Now, we would normally, I think I'll put this off till next month because I think you only heard about knew for sure about the meeting today. But plan to give us a couple of minutes of your background at the November meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Will do.
Good, thank you. All right, on to minutes. I hope everybody had a chance to look at them, and if somebody would make a motion to accept the minutes, that would be good.
This is Esther. I move that we accept the minutes for the September meeting and pay the clerk.
I second it.
Okay, all in favor? Do whatever you do best.
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye,
opposed?
Captain.
Aye.
Thank you, guys. Any opposed? Abstains? No. All right, done. Treasurer's report, Barbara. Can't hear you. There we go.
I do want to apologize for my absence over the last couple of months and the lack of reports. I did submit to you the August report, but we had to make some corrections. There were a lot of changes with the new year. And so I sent out today a corrected August report. And I mean, I'm not going to go over it line by line, but it left us at that point with $80,000. Unfortunately, there have been some discrepancies over the last couple of months, and my contact is not in the office on a daily basis, and so some of my questions have not been answered, and one of the critical ones affected the September report. So I'm going to have to send those reports out as soon as I do get answers. I did want to let everybody know that the Shelley Mastron has been paid. While we don't have a lot of other business and payments aside from paying Winifred, there have been a lot of odd adjustments and interest and things happening. So as soon as we get that all settled, I will send out additional treasurer reports. But we are looking at a current standing somewhere in the $78,000, $79,000 balance.
Okay. Thank you, Barbara. That's thank you for following up on all of that confusion. Is there any questions for Barbara? All right, good luck figuring it all out.
Thanks.
And then on to unfinished business. There are two things, and the first is Barbara Naif and Confederate Names Committee. I also have written things down because I have quite a lot to cover and I want to make sure I stay on task. There have been 2 meetings for the Confederate Claims Committee since our last History Commission meeting on the 2nd. That was on September 9th and then September 30th. The materials, including our minutes and the narratives we've talked about, have been posted on the History Commission CNC website. I wanted to say, while our obligation is to produce a Confederate names inventory report that the Board of Supervisors has defined, it will be the History Commission's report. Therefore, the narrative sections we are including, along with the data tables, are very important. The narratives reviewed and accepted by the CNC to date include those addressing the Civil War in Fairfax County, the sesquicentennial brochure, the interpretive markers, and family names. The lost cause ideology has been written and will be reviewed at the next CNC meeting on October 21st. The report section of the report, recommendations for consideration by the Board of Supervisors, will include 2 History Commission recommendations that the CNC discussed and approved at our September 30th meeting. First, that the research materials generated by the inventory project will be placed as a collection in the Virginia Room. The second is that the BOS initiate and pursue a robust public process regarding the disposition of Confederate-linked assets. And you can read the details on the material that was posted. Everyone received the posting also of something called the History Commission Next Step, announcing a major initiative in 2021. The CNC recommends the Commission approve this by vote this evening. The purpose for including this in the inventory report, though it will be totally separate from the Confederate names assignment, is to take advantage of a momentary platform to announce to the Board of Supervisors a commission initiative with the community. A very brief background. Some of us had been talking about how to structure a program that would benefit the multiple efforts that have been ongoing for a long time to record and promote the African American part of Fairfax County history. The Confederate names assignment halted our preliminary plans to propose an initiative such as this to the HC. Of course, many commissioners have long pursued their own projects with various African American groups. Our 2019 History Conference featured presentations by African Americans. But we want the Commission to establish an integrated program that will lead to coordinating and sharing opportunities for countywide presentations through the Commission digital and public presence. The Commission can join with various organizations, the Park Authority, the DPD Heritage Resources, and Virginia-wide projects. Phyllis Walker Ford has been my mentor throughout this effort. Our proposal has been shaped and defined by her multiple ongoing projects in both county and Commonwealth efforts to collect and disseminate what I have seen defined as the historical silences. Speaking on behalf of the CNC, here's my motion. I move the History Commission approve as a major initiative in 2021 the development of a research inventory by magisterial district identifying publications, documents, records, and such miscellaneous materials that provide access into the histories of African American communities throughout historical Fairfax County. End of motion. And this is just a first step. I hope I have a second.
Bob B. Johnson.
Okay.
You read that very quickly, Barbara. Your motion is to approve a future initiative by the magisterial district, creating an inventory of publications and research materials regarding African American history.
Right, and this is in the material that you received. This is quoting what we explained there. This is a first step to look at all the magisterial districts and pull. The very first step is to pull all the information that each of the districts has on African Americans. An example is in talking to Naomi Zevin about this. she said, well, I have so much information. I've published two books. They're in the Virginia room on African-American history in Mason District. Now, I'm not sure everybody knows that. I know Lynn is working in Clifton. I think each of us, if we had the time tonight, could go through and talk about samples of what we have. But not everybody is aware, and the public isn't aware. So that's, I can reread the motion. Winifred, I have all this written down for you if you need more. And I know those on the committee, when we talked about it, were enthused. Chris is enthused. Liz is enthused. So any other, anyone that wants to speak up. And Phyllis, I've tapped her because the term research inventory is hers. We've been trying to figure out how to formulate what it is we want to do.
Well, could like a bibliography is your final product?
Well, it's an initiative that that's the beginning. That's the beginning. We hope that
Yes,
this will keep going.
Of that inventory is essentially a bibliography.
Who's
So it's Cheryl again. I'm just, oh yeah. Sorry, I mean bibliography in the front that create a document that would identify. Sorry.
Yes. Phyllis, do you want to talk a little bit about this?
Yes. It's actually just finding out what each district has available in African American history so that we have an idea and what the final product would be, we don't know. The need for it, I'm working with fourth grade teachers in Fairfax County, and the need that I'm finding is if I've got a school in Centerville and they're looking for African American history in Centerville, I know there is some. But if we had an inventory, it would be easier for teachers across the county as well as communities who are looking for African American history in their community. I know we have oral histories, we have stories that we've written up in different districts. The Virginia room has a lot of it. But if we had one place where we could look for those things and identify those things, and we're continuing to collect things across the state, across the county. The governor established a commission on African American history education in the Commonwealth last year, and they've just finished a final report in August of this year that will include African American history in the curriculum. The State Board of Education plans to vote on that on the 15th of October. And the public hearing will be held on next Monday.
This is Esther. I think this is sorely needed. We're getting feedback somehow. But I've been looking for this kind of collection or findings in one place for 25 years. So this is wonderful.
Thank you, Esther. This was the reaction to several people because, again, it's our original idea was to have a workshop. Phyllis and I talked about having a workshop and have all the commissioners come and start just talking about what they have in their particular district. And we have formalized it. So it's good to hear from you, Esther, because as you saw in the material that was posted is that we want to contact the churches, we contact various organizations in the African American community. I remember meeting with Marion Dobbins' aunts. This has to do with the Pines, and this was many, many years ago before I brought her to the History Commission when I was still Park Authority staff. And I met with her at her aunt's house, and they brought out all of their scrapbooks. And they wanted to know, they told me their family histories, and then they asked me, why doesn't anyone know about this? And I said, because they're sitting right here in your living room.
And that's just one family stories we all know much about because Marion went on and became a public historian. So we know that family stories now. So I don't know how many people, I was one that did not know about Clifton's history until Lynn started talking about it, and that it was, you know, an African-American community down there. So this is this is an initiative. The initiative is major and it's a start. And where it leads, we'll hope. Phyllis told me today about one of the efforts that's been done that has a group of counties within Virginia that are working on Black history curriculum. It includes Loudoun, it includes Henrico, it includes a great many counties, but guess which county was not included?
Fairfax?
Ours. So there's lots of work to be done. There's lots of work to be done. And we've African Americans, I think it's a long time, so.
Barbara, can I chime in? It's Lynn.
Yes, please.
I just want to dovetail on a couple of things that you mentioned, and I'm ecstatic, absolutely ecstatic that we're going to be this intentional about seeking, securing, and collecting this information. I'm in the middle of a article writing series for Clifton Living magazine. I've just finished my third article about African American history in the area, and including the Burke area as well. I also know, and Barbara Peters, did we just lose her? No, you're over there.
She's there.
I know Naomi has had some health challenges this year, but she would love to hear from you and share with you a lot of the information she's done. She was very close to that African American community. The Clark House, she was quite the energy behind that. Thurgood Marshall and his wife, quite a lot of good steps there. So I would highly, highly encourage you to check in with Naomi.
Oh, I've already
not you, Barbara Nafe, Barbara Peters. Barbara
right.
Peters.
Right. I think Barbara Peters knows that. I've talked to Barbara Peters about this, and she's aware. And Naomi says I was doing this before anybody else was, but Barbara Peters is aware of Naomi, and Naomi says I can't wait to work on this. So that's that. In other words, I'm just sharing and what people seem to, the most difficult part of this was to try and define how we start it. So that's what it is. So
it's good news.
And Mary Lipsey tells me about all the oral history she did in Braddock with African Americans. So I mean, there's many of us have files full of it. So
Barbara, most of those were Providence District.
Pardon me?
Most of those were in Providence District.
Right. Oh, and by the way, Sue, who's here, Sue has been she has been our most industrious community volunteer on the Confederate name. So thank you, Sue. You're going to be official, but thank you for all the work you've done up to now. We appreciate it. So, and maybe
so Barbara, I just want to throw in my my 2 cents on this wonderful project. I think it's a really wonderful thing to look forward to launching in the new year. Is that I commend you guys for putting this together, because it's going to be something we can be real proud of. So are you ready to call the question, or?
You call it.
We got a motion on the floor.
We
all
had
right, everybody ready? All in favor, say aye.
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 Is anyone opposed? Okay, you got it, Barbara.
Thank you. Thank you, Phyllis. Thank you, everybody. Mary, Lynn, everyone that I've touched base on. I don't mean to exclude anyone. Just thank you. We're moving along. And this is positive, and it comes when we finish this report. This is the third story Mary mentioned, and we're going to take it on along with all kinds of people. So, okay, I'll be quiet.
It's good. Thank you very much. Thank you to your committee. Now, Carol, I don't know if you noticed, but your old firehouse I stuck it on here in case there was any news, given that you had a big meeting last night.
They did not discuss it last night, and it was a short meeting, and there'll be a public hearing November the 7th. But the firehouse didn't come up as far as I know. It was a very short meeting.
Is that good? That's amazing. Okay, so November 7th. So we'll hear about that. That would be an interesting thing to be listening to. Thank you, Carol. So I've marked up all my thing. Is the next thing new business? I think so. And if that's right, then it's over to Greg to tell us about this battlefield of the Drainsville battlefield opportunity.
And thank you, and good evening, everyone. And congratulations on the last initiative we just voted on. I think that's a great great initiative and great effort. And Phyllis, I've got some materials to send to you that I've collected along the way in my research. So watch for a packet in the mail. So the opportunity that Dan just mentioned is the prospect of preserving 4 acres in Drainsville that were smack dab in the middle of the Battle of Drainsville, which was fought on December 20th, 1861. It's notable for 2 reasons. One, it was the first major conflict in Fairfax County between 2 brigades. And it was the first Union victory of the Civil War of any note. General Ord effectively defeated Jeb Stuart. So it was a big deal at the time. These 4 acres are coming in 2 different parcels, are coming out of an estate sale. And I have, thanks to Ann who put me in touch with this, I've been out, I've talked to some of the people involved, including the executor of Joyce Trickett's estate, where these 4 acres are currently residing. And speaking to the executor, he, as you can imagine, has a fiduciary responsibility to get the highest price he can for the land. So it will be going up for sale here in the next several weeks. I don't exactly have a date. And things are still a bit in development, so I don't have much more details, other than there are also efforts, and his preference would be to see if it could be preserved for what could be the beginnings of another Civil War park here in Fairfax County. So he has been making contacts in the historic preservation field, in the arena where other nonprofits get involved, and we'll just have to stay tuned and see what happens there. I can show you a picture. The property is right on Reston Avenue. I can hold this up so people can see. Well, it's gonna be difficult to see, sorry. If you can see, there's 4 acres here in the yellow outline. I can send these maps around, I think. But it's a nice tract of land, enough room there where you could put a small park in. By comparison, Ox Hill is just under 5 acres. And let me just pause there, Ann, and see if there are any questions. I'd be happy to try to answer them, but I'm not in the middle of those negotiations, obviously.
This is Esther. Since we can't see the map, what is the nearest cross street to Reston?
Good question. And it's Route 7 and Reston Avenue.
Okay, thank you.
If you know that area, it's just south of the 7-Eleven on the same side of the road.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I see Barbara's waving. Question, Barbara? Barbara Naif? You're on mute.
I'm trying to unmute myself. Yeah, I think this would be absolutely wonderful because the tavern is still there. The little church across on Leesburg Pike is still there. One of my first assignments when I was a part-time employee was I was at the tavern, and I had to study and write up the battle in one So it's always, it's a very interesting, it's an interesting time. And so if there's some way that this could happen, I think it would be wonderful. Reston Avenue is the old, not Reston Parkway, but what used to be, was called that, but it's the old road that's right there. That was part, it's old Centerville Road, and that was part of the battle. I wanted to ask you, Greg, at the time, because that we lost so much of Ox Hill to development, and I know the what was then called the Civil War Trust, I think it's called the American Battle Trust or something like that now. Yeah, they were very distraught about what happened with Ox Hill, and I wondered if they're, have any interest here or could help or whatever, because it would be, with all that went on in Fairfax County, I think it would be great to have it. And I will offer one other thing here. In doing all of this research and things that we're working on with the Confederate names, it's pointed out, and when I'm dealing with the lost cause ideology, they point out that there's two strands to to people that are involved in the Civil War. There's the social history, yes, but there's also the military history, and the people that are interested in the military history is a vital part, and it's the real part. And so I think it would be really, and I have to say this as a Yankee, the Union won, so it would really be nice. So anyway, enough, but I would certainly support it if there's any way we can get help. I was looking to see what kind of money was coming up with the Park Authority for their acquisition. I don't know that they would acquire it because it's going to be a culture resource, but maybe if it were acquired, they could take care of it.
Yeah. So to respond to two of your points, I know the executor has been in contact with the American Battlefield Trust, and that would be the natural entity to acquire the land. They don't manage land once they buy it, but they buy it to preserve, then they hand it off to some other party. So the county could be a natural entity to take over the land once it was purchased. You also mentioned the Church of the Brethren.
Yes.
Which is also part of the battlefield. And there, the gentleman, John Moyle, who reached out to Ann initially, his son is doing an Eagle Scout project where he's got a marvelous interpretive panel. It's about 3 by 5 feet that they're going to install, and then actually it's this weekend they're going to install it and then have a ceremony on or around the date of the battlefield in December at the church. And what's notable there, that this young man's done a very fine job. I think we have pictures of that we can share. He's tracked down every casualty on both sides of the battle, 200 and some casualties, and has every name listed for both the Federals and the Confederates on this plaque. So it's quite a nice tribute to the men who fought and died there, and will be posted on the church grounds in December.
Oh, good. Nice to know. Thank you.
Great Eagle Scout project. Any other
so
questions?
we were talking about Greg and I have talked about writing a letter to the chairman of the Board of Supervisors or the supervisors with basically we just want you to know that this is happening. It's an FYI. We hope that we want you to know that this is happening. This is what happened there, a little bit of background. And we would like to be able to report. I mean, you may have written a motion to this effect, Greg, but if we could say that we all think it's a great idea at this meeting, then we could write to say that, and we could say that we hope that the board would support it as well.
I would second that motion.
It wasn't much of a motion, but I'm not sure the chairman's allowed to make motions, which is why I always have to give my gavel away. But yes, I think that's where we're heading, right, Greg?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't realize we were going down the path of a formal resolution, so that's my bad. But I move, and that the History Commission.
Well, we don't have to.
If you want a motion, I'm happy to move that the History Commission support the concept of the historic preservation of those 4 acres in Drainsville, related to the battle there on December 20th, 1861.
I would second the
Second
motion.
that.
Okay, and then we have a second, and then is there any more questions for Greg? It's a pretty much a magic to fall in your lap to find a site of this size in a location like that. And if it were another Ox Hill, it would be very interesting and a good thing for our county. Any other discussion? I suppose we can call the vote if there's nobody waving arms around. Everybody's turned into just a round circle for my computer, so I hope you can hear me. Let's try to vote. Everybody unmute yourself, and all in favor of throwing our support to the preservation of 4 acres as a Civil War battlefield and to encourage this. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any, the other ones, abstentions? No. Okay, good. Thank you, everybody. Hey, Greg, thank you. So we can write a letter and if that's, oh, we didn't say we could write a letter. Do we have to vote that too? We should have thrown that into the motion.
I'm sorry, I thought that was part of my motion, but
I think maybe it was. Does anybody remember?
That was an
It's like,
implied part of the
sorry,
motion.
I think it was. I'm sure it was. I heard it.
thank you,
Yes.
Gordon.
Okay, so you know what, Winifred, I will volunteer Greg to flesh out that motion in writing for you.
I'll send it to you tomorrow, Winifred.
To be very clear, we'll send a letter, just a letter saying, hey, look, there was this interesting battle and some land is coming available. Okay, that's that. Uh-oh, there's a cat on my agenda. Thank you very much, Greg.
Thank
We
you.
are over to staff
Thanks, everyone.
reports, if I haven't missed anything. And so it's Liz,
And-
over to you.
And before we
Yeah.
head over there, Sally Lyons and I were talking earlier, and we weren't sure if the issue of River Farm got on the schedule, and then there was an additional issue of Lebanon Barn.
Oh, that's a good idea. Let's just add it. We don't know if we're allowed to, but we do need to talk about it. So if we could, let's start, if that's all right with everybody, I'd like to start with River Farm and what's the latest. I think you've been sending us stuff. Okay, over to you, Tammy.
Yeah,
Sally.
so along the same lines of what Greg was saying, an important historic property in the area, I think we might have talked about it at an earlier meeting. It's part of George Washington's River Farm. It's a property also referred to as Wellington. The American Horticultural Society has run into financial difficulties due to COVID, and I think maybe even predating COVID, and they've decided to put the property up for sale. I was going to say the community is very agitated by this and does not want to lose the public access to this space, and wants to ensure that it's also preserved for its historic nature. Scott Sorovel, the state senator, has been taking the lead on that, and he has done amazing things so far. He's brought together Mount Vernon and the National Park Service, Fairfax County, and the American Horticultural Society to talk about this. He's contacted a lot of folks up the chain, Don Beyer and Tim Kane, and so he's been working very hard on tackling this and making sure that we don't lose this property. The status that I understand so far is that they're negotiating to try to get an option to buy. for one of the park services. So that's where he is right now. And so hopefully that's going to buy them some time so that it isn't sold off and closed to the public before we can, blink. So hopefully he's going to be successful with that effort. But I just wanted to update you all on that. I don't know that History Commission has a role yet at this point. At some point, they're going to have to do some kind of outreach and fundraising, I think, to be able to make this work, because of course that property along the Potomac is quite pricey. So the area next door to the property is up for sale for $60 million. So I don't know what River Farm price tag on that is going to be. So, but anyway, so that's what's going on with that situation.
So Tammy, have they exhausted their efforts to find any encumbrance on the land from the donor? Or is there still some chance?
Yeah, Scott has worked on that. There was at least some kind of statement that Enid Haupt, the donor of the land, to the Horticultural Society. In all of the newspaper articles of the time, she said that her idea was that it would be for public access. I don't know that they have found a legal instrument that says that at this point. I know that folks have been looking for it. So
I would add to the discussion that although the House did not pass for a national register back, I believe it was in the 1980s, we've now been informed by people from the state that it probably would pass if we put it in application now, for whatever that's worth. If we're able to do an anti-demolition move.
How many acres are there?
Yeah.
About 15.
That's right.
And there's just this
How
one?
many?
About 15.
And there's just one house? One structure?
The historic home is one structure. There are additional structures that came later, I believe.
There also should be archaeological evidence if it hasn't been destroyed by subsequent, construction on the site.
Jordan, I have a question.
Yeah.
Is it possible for the county to put a historic overlay district on this?
Oh, well, it's I wouldn't think it's private ownership or ownership of this nonprofit, right? I don't see a problem with that.
I mean, would that slow down the sale?
I don't think so. What happens if an owner doesn't want their property? I'm not as familiar with the county's process. What happens if the owner doesn't want to be in an overlay district? Can there be an objection as there is with the National Register? Does anybody know that?
Well, I know that was our primary tactic when time was of the essence with respect to Blenheim.
Yeah.
Hi, this is a leisure long-term representative on the Architecture Review Board. Yes, we could have a single site historic overlay district. We have not yet done so. However, you would still run into the same problems with demolition. We could slow it down a bit. Scott Service was suggesting we do something like that about a year ago, as some of you may recall. However, it's not bulletproof because historic district buildings and historic overlay districts can be demolished.
Yeah. Okay. So it doesn't. Yeah. Same with register properties or landmarks. You're right, Elise. The other thing is, I think it may be a stretch to think that the Park Service would acquire this. having been through a couple of hearings up on the Hill with the Rosenwald initiative, the Park Service is very, very leery about acquiring. Very difficult to get them to acquire property, and the first step in that is to do a historic resource study. And that's where we are with Rosenwald, and it's difficult even to get to that place. And so I don't know how realistic that is, but you may have other information that they are interested and they could come up with the dollars. But of course, things are very tight, even with the passage of the new legislation that gives them some much needed money. But so that's going to be a bit of a stretch.
Right.
We have 3 entities that have expressed interest in it. I think National Park Service, Nova Regional Parks, and then Fairfax County And I don't know, like, I think they've spoken amongst them which one is the front runner, but I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, yeah.
Are all the adjoining properties privately owned?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now they do have, the National Park Service has a scenic easement, and they have an easement along East Boulevard there. So there are some protections on the property as far as division and scenic easements are concerned.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. All right, I'm going to
You
turn
know,
it over. Go ahead.
keep sending us updates. We appreciate it because we're just the sort of people who run into people who want to know.
Right, right. Yeah, we'll keep on that, and I think there's a group that's exploring the National Historic Register nomination as well. So we'll keep up to date on that. So Sally, I think wanted to talk about Lebanon Barn.
Yeah, the barn at Lebanon, which was built about the same time as the house, i.e. about the middle 1830s, was the site of the first Methodist meetings in this part of the county, which subsequently led to the establishment of Cranford Church and Silverbrook Church. So the Nova Parks has put in an application for demolition for the barn. It's in rather bad shape. And I inquired whether they would consider deconstructing it and restoring the foundation and reconstructing it sort of as an educational process, and also because it is a Mason Neck landmark. So I'm putting that idea across to the Mason Neck Citizens Association, and I have yet to hear what they think of it. We would probably have to get some outside funding to do it, but I'd like Nova Parks to consider it.
What's their timetable? They seem pretty eager.
I don't know.
Are they listening?
Well, this has all come up in the last couple.
That would be. It would wouldn't it be awful to have a park tear down? I mean, it's bad enough when private ownership does it, to have a park tear down an important landmark like that is just awful. Well, thanks for letting us know. Is there anything we should do?
Well, this time I'm waiting to hear back from both the parks and the Citizens Association, so I will keep you posted.
Okay.
But right now, I think they consider the
Good
building
luck.
ability. Yeah.
And I'll just weigh in to say that in our Confederate names survey of the street names, it's very clear how important this resource is. A lot of the streets in Lorton are connected to the beginnings of this church. The Cranford is in the street names, and Lewis, Reverend Lewis Chapel, all of that is connected to this property. So it's very evident from the history that it's important.
All right, thanks you guys.
And
all right, well yeah.
Before you leave new
I hear you.
business, I have a 106. Where does that go? I have a 106 report.
Oh,
On what?
Yeah.
It's on a let's see, telephone tower on Americana Drive in Annandale. There is no problem with it.
No effect. No effect.
No effect.
Okay.
Good. I think that's all. That's what we need to know when people when you get these 106s, have a look, and if it's no effect, we don't even really have a system to report it. You're right, Mary. I mean, where do you fit it in? We should probably have a little wrap up. Did anyone else have a 106 report or a comment or anything you're worried about?
Barbara.
I had two, and Phyllis had one, but I thought many moons ago we agreed that if there was no effect, then that was it. We stopped. We're not pursuing. You right. Respond when there is an effect, and so that's all you do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just sent one to Sue, the new Sue, and it's in the middle of Tyson's Corner. I mean, I'm sure there's no effect there. So that you may confidently ignore it, Sue. Okay, well, we will, but just because we're ignoring it, we each of us look at the ones we get and make a determination. So
Right.
we're not ignoring the whole letter.
Yeah.
We're just,
And if I could, Mary, has anybody asked you or asked us for comment?
On what? On this one?
Yeah. I mean,
Yes.
I would say do we need to respond from a federal agency or a state preservation officer or?
This was from the Federal Communications Commission.
Yeah, that would be the federal agency, right? So I think probably the best thing to do would be to write just a brief letter saying that the commission has reviewed this and it's our determination that in accordance with the council's regulations, 36 Part 800, we've determined there is no effect.
Okay.
Yeah, I can.
that's a good idea. Oh yeah, draft us up one. We have never done this, Jordan, in years of getting it. So give us a draft and let's consider it at the next meeting when we don't have a vice presidential debate in 30 minutes.
You got it. No problem.
The other one is.
We should have basically a template.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. And because if we respond like this, they're more likely to keep on sending us notifications. There might be something that we would want to get involved in. So that's important.
Denise sent, or someone, Gretchen and me, one for the address is actually the CVS at the Kings Park Shopping Center. And we're trying to get a map of exactly where they are putting this, because I can't envision it. But they're concerned about it's across diagonally from the Holy Spirit Catholic Church, which is on the historic inventory site list. So I don't know how to get them to get us an exact pinpoint where in that shopping center or parking lot this tower is supposed to be going.
Okay, well, we could look at that, but the actual determination will be no potential to have an effect on historic properties or no historic properties. But I can take care of that and we can discuss it at our next meeting.
Okay.
Well, Mary's saying in this case, it's possibly 0.4 miles away from one of our sites. So it's kind of like the Brimstone Hall, only closer.
Yeah,
so,
this is two different
you
ones,
know,
Jordan.
we actually, Denise and I were talking today that we maybe should have a session sometime on these cell towers and learn a little more the lingo and the rules. And because we do get them, we're just going to keep getting them.
Yes, you will, and you're going to get more of them because a whole raft of new 106 cases are coming out involving what they call twilight towers, where more cell phone apparatus is being put on existing cell towers.
Right.
They require new 106 reviews, but they never were reviewed to begin with. So I'm happy to share that with you. That's a current issue actually that the council is dealing with.
Sure.
Yeah.
And if I may, this is
all right. Well, yeah.
The History Commission has an adopted policy for how you handle FCC transmission. Yeah, so I can provide that to you for maybe discussion at the next commission meeting if you all are going to change your policies about how you handle FCC and transmission towers.
Yes. Good. Thank you. Let's put that on next time. Thanks everybody. That's good to revisit it now and again. Because it's not, maybe there's a different way to do it. Okay. I'm ready to move on if everybody else is. Liz, you got like 2 seconds, but you can have 3.
Okay, I'll do this as quickly as possible. We have, in anticipation of, the collections facility moving forward, we have completed archaeological field work in compliance with the zoning ordinance in the area of the collections facility. The area is heavily disturbed and there were no intact archaeological resources discovered. Amy Wells and a crew of archaeologists were out there a couple of weeks ago, and they are in the process of writing that report. The collections facility will, when they have finalized the conceptual design, that will be going to the Architectural Review Board. Initially, the thought was it was going to go in October. If I were a betting woman, I would bet January at this point. And I would say that the group should bring it to the History Commission for your information the month following when it goes to the ARB. And we would also, we would report out on the archaeology as well as plans for the collections facility. Moving on, this coming Friday, archaeological staff will be out in Centerville at the Sears House. There is an electric or utility line proposed to go in to the Sears House. And when I said it was electric, it's some kind of utility. I'm not absolutely sure, but staff will be out there monitoring the work, and that is on Friday. Moving along, we have been, I think because people are doing a lot of teleworking or they're home doing home instruction with children or whatever, but we've been having huge numbers of citizen inquiries about archaeology, history, artifacts, buildings, and other things like that. So we have been fielding a wide range of those. I've been working on the CNC, and as part of that, I completed the write-up that for the Fairfax County Park Authority sites and buildings that may be Confederately named or have family names. So that has been submitted as well. On another topic, I sat in a meeting today, and it was a kickoff meeting. And earlier in the week, Fairfax County had announced that Juneteenth is going to be becoming a county holiday. And I was invited to participate in a meeting today with folks from the sites and from, who do interpretation and such, to talk about ways of commemorating, celebrating Juneteenth for 2021. So as part of that, they are looking at us for things that would be archaeological. At this point, it really was just a really general discussion, but they are going to be, they're going to be setting up a committee and moving forward so that when June rolls around, that there will be some presence. And we certainly have, done excavations in the past and interpretation of African-American sites. And so again, this is something, and the History Commission may want to consider as part of the initiative that Barbara mentioned, may want to consider looking at, Juneteenth coming up for next year, because it is going to be a county holiday. So for, as part of that initiative that Barbara mentioned that was being proposed. And finally, I've been working with Mary Lipsy and Maddie McCoy from Fairfax County Cemetery Preservation Association and members of the African American community with regard to a family cemetery, the Neal Family Cemetery. And so we have been working on that and continue to have meetings, to assist in, making sure that it's protected and acknowledged. So, and Mary, if you have anything you want to throw in. Okay. All right. That's probably enough for me.
Thank you very much, Liz. Megan, are we up to Megan? Yes.
Yep. Okay, so for museum collections, I created a week of history mystery post that was featured by the PIO on Facebook and Instagram. I attended the virtual collections facility schematic design meetings that we had the first week and the last week of September. The PIO asked me to review previous artifacts blogs posts for inclusion in Annandale's Endeavor News magazine. I picked up items for donation and loan review through Sully Historic Site from the Sully Foundation. And I renewed RMD's AAM membership for 2021. For operations and maintenance projects, the staff continues to work on the Ash Grove Kitchen Stabilization Project. The Oak Hill virtual tour with Channel 16 is in its final stages of production and will go live in late October. Staff is working with WJE on treatment plans for the outbuildings at Sully Historic Site, and a historic structures report and treatment plan for Mount Gilead is underway, and WJE will provide a draft later this fall. And then for volunteers, the HSVC had a successful landscape cleanup event at Leahy Lost Valley in September with a total of 16 volunteers, and all social distancing protocols were followed. And the next volunteer event will be at Drainsville Tavern on October 10th to clean out metal materials from the basement and recycle. So that's it from us. And then, Bob will read the resident curator updates.
Thank you. Any questions for Megan? All right, over to Chris, representing the Virginia Room.
Yay! Sorry. Crowd applause, standing ovation. I'm going to make this lightning round. We're still hanging in there in the library. We're receiving lots of virtual genealogy and local history questions. Still plugging away at the Confederate names research. The only really exciting update this month is we got a really cool new collection. Some of you might remember a few years ago, I made a nomination for the National Bank of Fairfax main office, which was designed by Ward and Hall. Well, unfortunately, one of the principals, Mr. Ward, passed away in July at age 92, but his family was very kind and invited me to his house, and I got to pick up 30 plus blueprints of many of the buildings he designed here in the county, including the CIT building, which is that cool looking inverted pyramid over by Dallas Airport. So that's really exciting. Lots of other memorabilia, including photos of the buildings he designed all over the Mid-Atlantic region. So we're really honored to be able to preserve a part of Mr. Ward's amazing legacy. And that firm was active in the county for over 50 years. And literally, if you throw a rock in the air, it's probably going to hit a building that they designed. They did everything from schools, churches, to naval housing in Iceland, all over the place they did it. So we're really excited.
Chris, can I ask a quick question? Did they know about your award from last year?
I don't think so. I did let Mr. Ward know that his building was nominated, and he was too sick to respond, but the family said he was very honored about that. So he was very excited that one of his buildings is on the inventory. So,
and you launched it, so that was great.
Yeah, but you guys made it so thanks to you for doing that for Mr. Ward. Lastly, I've been tasked with making a suggestion to the History Commission. Every year, you all are very generous with giving the Virginia Room an annual contribution of $1,000 that goes towards various Virginia Room projects or preservation initiatives, and we're so grateful for that. Thank you so much. But if you feel like continuing that annual contribution, we've been working to acquire 2 new ScanPro digital microfilm readers. And these things are really amazing. They can digitize newspapers instantly, OCR them real quickly. The possibilities are really infinite, and they're so much more user-friendly than what we offer to the public right now. So the actual cost of these 2 machines is a little over $26,000. $17,500 has been received so far. $8,690 remains to be raised. And we've received donations from several individuals, the Friends of the Virginia Room and the Friends of Burke Center Library, the National Capital Area Chapter of the Association of Professional Genealogists, and $4,000 from the History Commission, which has been a accumulation of 4 years of designated annual Virginia Room donations. So if you feel like contributing this year's annual amount, we're almost there to securing these machines. Laura Wickstead is also working with Suzanne Levy president of the Virginia Room Friends, for further fundraising. So thank you very much for considering that. And that is the end of my lightning round report.
Thank you, Chris. This is something that we, I'm on the Virginia, I can't really, I probably have to recuse myself or something because I'm on the Virginia Room Friends board. Yeah, I think, yeah, board. No, I'm an officer. So I think that's an idea, you know, since we can only give our money for very specific things, not just to add to the pot. This would be an opportunity to move this year's amount early. I'll just while we're thinking about it, let me defer to Elise, who's been working on our budget for next year. And I imagine you've got the $1,000 in the budget for this fiscal year.
And why don't we go, just a second, let me turn myself back on. We've been making this contribution for years. So why don't we go ahead, I would like to make a motion tonight that the History Commission contribute $1,000, give a $1,000 grant to the Virginia Room for the purchase of, to go toward the purchase of the microfilm machines. Chris, correct me if I'm on my language.
Second.
Barbara Nave seconds it.
I just beat you. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
One, that's fine. That's
2
good.
seconds, that's good.
So
Okay, any questions for Chris or?
I actually have a question for Elise. Is there anything that we have saved money on this year that we could maybe make a bigger donation?
Yeah.
I'd like to. If we want,
You know,
I've been thinking about this for several months now and chatting with Ann back and forth and Laura. If we wanted to, we could pay the entire amount that's due because we have a lot of accumulated unspent funds. But that is up to you guys.
The other thing I was thinking about that is I believe from what I have heard, there are still some organizations who aren't us, who haven't been asked or haven't gotten around to pinning themselves down. So that would be another approach, is to say, let's go ahead and do our normal amount this year, this month, and then see how the fundraising goes, and they can know that we've got some deeper pockets.
And as the fundraiser on the board, I'd like to suggest Chris, how much money you have to raise right now? What's the difference?
It's $8,690 is the difference.
Okay. I'd like to recommend that we consider a gift of at least $4,000 and treat it as a matching gift. So in other words, you could go to other organizations and say, you know, we have the History Commission has offered a $4,000 grant if we can match that. And I think I think you will get a lot of response. And that'll get you to 8,000, or make it 5 and, you know, round it up and you've got all the money you need. So let's make it 5 as a matching grant. You'll get the money anyway.
Jordan, I need to jump in here. Yeah. I do not know if we can do that. Years ago, when Don Sinise passed, his family asked that money be donated to the Fairfax County History Commission, and instead we had to tell family members, no, go ahead and give it to the Park Authority. So I don't know, maybe rules have changed since then, but I would encourage a little bit of research before we go forth with that.
Wouldn't the money go to the library?
I don't know how that would get handled, but if we're initiating it, I don't know what that does to the traffic of the money.
Lynn, he's not suggesting.
I'd like to see the budget first.
Why don't we let Laura Wickstead do some research?
Okay.
And come back to us with a situation? Because as I mentioned, this is something that's been perking along for months. So we can give them our 1,000 now, and they can come back to the pot knowing that we're back there. That's my suggestion. And so I'm going to ask we call the question.
Well, may I make a comment?
The History Commission is not going to be making or having to spend money for the conference this year. So there is some funds there. So at least let me just push that your way. I apologize.
I do think that Jordan's suggestion has merit. I don't want that to be lost. If there is a need to do some due diligence to ensure that it's a permissible approach, that's fine. But I think it has great merit, and he is absolutely right. If you set it up that way, that money will come, and it will come rather quickly.
So
that's something Denise can help us with. And
could you? I couldn't hear you, Esther.
Is that something Denise could help us figure out?
Oh, absolutely, but not tonight.
No, I'm just saying research, because if we do the matching, then it gets more complicated. It's a wonderful fundraising way of doing it, and we thank Jordan for that. But we want to make sure that we're not overstepping anything.
I think that's right. I think we will take steps between the library staff and our staff liaison Denise, and we will, if that's how we want to handle it. It's not I don't think they would mind putting it off for a month, and then we would go back right now to the original motion from Elise. Moved and seconded. And that, could you restate it, Elise?
That we make our annual grant in the amount of $1,000 to the Virginia Room for the purchase to go toward the microfilm machines, the digital microfilm machines.
Okay, so I think let's go ahead and call the question, but know that we will make some progress in understanding what a next step could be, okay? Because I think it's a good, generous offer, but the matching grant is a little bit of a different animal than just a plain check. So we'll find out. All in favor of Elise's motion, please say aye.
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 Aye. Are there any nays? I'm not hearing any, so just shout if you are. No abstentions? Okay,
No, we
so
love
that
the
motion
Virginia
passes.
Room.
And we love
We've
all
always loved the
Thank you so
Virginia.
much. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, thank you, Chris. And you know, we'll come back to this next month. Well, I think it's time for Denise. Denise?
Yes, sorry, I'm muting. All right, so I have a slightly longer-ish report, but I'm going to skip over some of the things that have already been touched on. For instance, the barn at Lebanon. It'll be included in my staff report, but we pretty much covered it. The Route 1 BRT Section 106, staff responded to the most recent FTA and FCDOT submission regarding the Section 106 consultation for Route 1, and the History Commission comments were included as an attachment to staff comments, and thank you very much for those. The Confederate Names Committee staff now has all of the History Commission's research on the filtered lists. Kira Davis, with Heritage Resource Planning Technician, has begun to consolidate the filtered lists by magisterial districts. The Confederate Names Committee will be meeting once more on October 21st to review the rough draft of an assembled report, and then the final report will be presented to the History Commission at its November meeting. So I have an item here on the Civil War monuments and the History Commission's request for the History Commission participation, which I'm not going to redo since we've already talked about it. Gum Springs and Mount Vernon, in addition to the CLG grant DPD received to complete an architectural survey for Gum Springs, Supervisor Stork requested and the board approved an allocation of $60,000 to Heritage Resources to complete a comprehensive management document which will include oral histories in addition to the preliminary information form to expedite the process of submitting a nomination to DHR for the designation of Gum Springs as a historic district. McMillan Farm, we haven't talked about that. DPD received the final draft of the MOA for mitigation of the loss of McMillan Farm. Along with documenting the barn and the house, the developer will develop a plan for the memorialization and interpretation of the farm property. The draft plan will be submitted to the Corps, the county, and the History Commission and SHPO's office for review and comment. While there remains no specified time frame in the implementation, which was a concern that staff had, I spoke with the SHPO's office, who indicated that this information can be included in the plan rather than the MOA. Holland Hills Potential Historic Overlay District, the Holland Hills Work Group is picking up its work 19 to continue the discussion of potential contributing and non-contributing structures, as well as starting to review the draft potential design HOD design guidelines. The Homes Run Acres Potential HOD, the community work group is having their second meeting Wednesday, October 14th at 6:30 p.m. They'll be finalizing the defining characteristics of the Homes Run Acres neighborhood and begin looking at individual structures to determine whether they will be contributing to a potential historic overlay district. Information about the upcoming meeting can be found on the Homes Run Acres Plan Amendment webpage. And the Preservation of Affordable Housing Task Force, Fairfax County has convened a task force for the purposes of developing a comprehensive plan for the preservation of affordable housing. The task force has asked Heritage Resource staff to aid in gathering resources regarding the history of communities that currently have affordable housing. Heritage Resource staff or members of the task force may be reaching out to the History Commission to aid in this process. If you have any questions, Nicole Brannon is the contact for that. We've talked about the barn at Lebanon, the Bois Doré National Register nomination on September 17th. The Virginia State Review Board and the Historic Resources Board voted to approve the National Register nomination for Bois Doré. With their decision, the property is automatically listed in the Virginia Landmarks Register, and the nomination will be sent to the National Park Service for their review and approval for the National Register. This can take up to 45 days, and we appreciate those commissioners who reviewed the nomination and responded. Your comments went as an attachment to staff's comments. The Briarwood Farmhouse in the Providence District on September 21st, the Inventory Committee voted to recommend the Briarwood Farmhouse nomination to the History Commission for consideration for listing in the Inventory of Historic Sites. The nomination was forwarded to the History Commission on September 22nd and should come to a vote at its November meeting. And then finally, the membership contact list and committee information. Please remember to look over the membership contact list you should have received from me last week and get back to me with any changes that you would like to make. I request that you pay particular attention to the committee information, since I'm now sending out invitations through WebEx or for the AT&T audio bridge, there has been some confusion over who's on committees and who's not. So if I could have an accurate list, so when I'm sending out the invitations, I'm sending it to the right people, I'd appreciate it. And that is my report.
Thank you, Denise. Are there any questions? I wanted to just mention while Denise was talking about Macmillan, we're a consulting party on that, and I think we've Greg and I have looked at the proposal, the MOA, and are inclined to sign off as well. And I think we have that. We're your representatives as consulting parties. So FYI, that's our next step. Right, Greg? So.
Yeah, and that's right.
Oh.
I think we're a concurring party. The last I saw.
Yeah, she called it concurring party. You're right.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
And I think I'll defer to Jordan on that, but you get to sign. And I think the only thing I noticed, and Denise correct me, was that you still may need to get a signature on that. But I think all things considered, we've gotten about as much as we're going to get out of this. And
yeah, concurring party, invited concurring party is that you sign. You don't sign, it's no big, doesn't affect anything, but you do sign. That's, yeah, it's a placebo. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, it is. It makes you feel good. Yeah, so we're all set. Yep.
But thanks to Denise for all the great.
We
staff
were invited.
to this.
I do have a question. We were invited to be a consulting party, and we said yes. So when did we turn into a concurring party, or is that just what you?
You actually can be a concurring party and a consulting party and continue to consult. And then when the agreement is ready, when you sign, you become either a signatory or a concurring party. So you can be both.
I got you. Thank you so much.
You bet.
You be one, and then you're the other.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Anything else for Denise? All right. Moving on. We've got committee reports, inventory. Elise.
Okay, well, Denise just took my report. The inventory committee is forwarding for your review the Briarwood Farmhouse nomination. We ask you to look over it in the next month, and we'll vote on it at the November meeting. And the budget request, next to my next item, the budget request is in the works. It's going to be much simplified from previous years. And I will be getting budget information to you all soon so that we can see where our financial status is in terms of spending money. The annual report, every time I think it's died, somebody turned something in. Thank you, Lynn. So I'm going to say that I'm going to spend time on it in the next 2 weeks, and I'm going to send out a draft. And for those of you committee chairmen who have not sent me anything yet, you know who you are. I'm staring at least one of them on the screen now. Please get your reports in. Yeah, Lynn's exempt now, but there's a couple of you who still owe me something. So that's where we are on that. We may not send it off to the board, but at least wrap it up so we have it as a record. And that's everything for me tonight.
Yeah. And we will talk about whether they do want to see us in person, because they did not, COVID just put a stop to the whole thing. But you're right. We need, even if we don't manage to go there in person, we need to submit it. And I don't mind going there. Well, I do. Okay. Thank you very much, Elise. Mary, markers.
A couple of things. I've been working with Maddie McCoy and all to work on a new and improved text for Carrolltown historical marker, which is an existing marker. We have finished, and I have sent it on to Phyllis, and Phyllis will also be sharing it with relatives or descendants of the Carroll family. So eventually, marker committee, we will get together and preview it, and then I'll take care of getting it, the top of the text, the top of the marker moved and back to CWA and changed. I asked our marker committee to make any progress reports on proffers. I'll just say that, the pandemic has affected each and every one of us. But if any of the committee members have anything to say about proffers they're working on, this is the opportunity for you. Okay, I will move on to Civil War Trails sponsorship. Drew Gruber of Civil War Trails, who's executive director, has inquired about the History Commission sponsoring Civil War Trail markers. It's a $200 a year, and there are 6 on park property. And this is something new that came up after the program was started. And I will defer to Ann as to what our process will be. I sent him a lot of questions. He has a lot of answers. We would be setting precedents. First of all, I don't know financially, this is something we can do. There are some markers, when he says 6 on parkland, he also said that next year there may be some more that will need sponsorship. And it's very technical in terms of who owns this, etc. So Ann and I have been talking about it, and I don't know if the History Commission wants to be totally involved or let the marker committee advance on this. Ann, I'd like you to speak or address that.
Yeah, thanks, Mary. I was thinking, it probably, because it will involve, unless the marker committee wants to do it all by themselves, and that's a possibility. It's a confusing situation, and we certainly haven't gotten to the point where we have a recommendation to make to the commission. We just the other day got a whole bunch of answers from our whole bunch of questions about how the program works. One of the issues is that when we did all those Civil War Trails markers for the sesquicentennial, apparently the deal with Civil War Trails was a very modest annual fee. And then some years later, the board of Civil War Trails changed its business plan to have a different fee structure. So they now are pretty uniform across the 6 states. They charge $200 a year for participation in the program. They call it maintenance or membership or participation, lots of different things. So so we just have to learn a little bit more about it. The urgency, well, I don't know that it's urgent, but the reason we care, the importance of it, is Civil War Trails tells us that that orphan, unsponsored markers are moved by Civil War Trails. And we also don't see any documentation that gives them that right, but it may exist. We may get the attorneys involved to understand it better, right, Mary? I mean, there's just so much that we don't know. And I think our first choice isn't to write a check, but to find out more. So that's where Mary and I have been heading. So I don't know if any of y'all have any.
My other thought is that apparently we have example of one written agreement, but others, organizations that had, or owners who have them on their property, there's nothing in writing about the original agreement. And I think if we were to choose to sponsor any of these markers, we certainly would need to have something in writing. And I don't know the logistics or the legality of the History Commission getting involved in that. The county attorney might need to get involved with it. So I don't know, Denise, I don't know if this is something that you want to get involved in. I have told him that we are in no rush to do this because we have some big, projects ahead of us. But I would love to know who to talk to as to, start getting some answers.
So Mary, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, whether it's a county attorney, whether it's DPD, whatever.
The markers the orphan markers, they're on Park Authority property though?
There are 6. There are others that are not. And so he is looking for sponsorship of more than just the park ones.
So, but are they on county property?
Some are on shopping center properties.
But the 6 that he's talking about right now are on Park Authority property. Is that right?
That's correct. And I would like him to give us a list of every single one of them, because those of us who were on the Sesquicentennial Committee, we went through 25 of them over those 5 years.
Yeah.
And
I would propose that we follow up and learn more, work with Denise and whoever, because we're not going to solve this unless somebody raises your hand and says, I have a really great idea. Then we're not going to solve this tonight. So my recommendation would be to close the discussion now and follow up with Denise after, if that works for everybody.
That's fine with me. And, I'm thinking, Denise, in terms of going on your time frame. I am not, any rush with this, and he's got to understand that too. So whatever your schedule. I will, when you are ready, I will send you my questions and his answers. I do not have a complete list. I have my list of Civil War trail markers, but I do not have a complete list from him. And that's what I want. I want to know who owns each and every one. So I will reach out.
We'll work on that because
yeah,
we'll work on that. He will end up giving us everything we want because we will be persuasive.
Right.
And there's no reason for him to play games. He's got a big Excel spreadsheet with every single one on it. You saw that one copy of an old one. Okay, thank you, Mary, because this is kind of a pain in the neck one that came up out of the blue, very unexpected. So
just one more
thank you. Is there anything more?
Yes, just one more thing, and that is, as of the motion that was made by Supervisor Palchik at the September 15th meeting, that the History Commission Marker Committee was asked to provide information on what kinds of markers there are, what's the nomination procedure, et cetera, et cetera. I have written up a response, and that includes the History Commission markers, state markers, and wayside or commercial markers, whatever you want to call them, and try to be as specific as possible with timelines, cost, et cetera, and some discussion questions. So my understanding, Denise, that you might jump in here as to where that's going next.
Yeah, thanks, Mary. I did receive the draft this evening, and I'll take a look at it. And the next stop will be the county executive's office, and then it will go to the county attorney's office before it arrives in the board package as a not in package information item.
Okay. So that's it for the marker committee.
Great. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Mary. Esther, oral history and ethnic.
Thank you. It's so good to see everyone. The ethnic committee has, as you know, paused because of COVID-19. We have not been in communication with Channel 16. That communication is beginning to start again. So we'll keep you posted on that. We have a committee meeting scheduled for the 15th, Thursday the 15th at 7 o'clock. And I want to verify the names of my committee members. Ann Stuntz, Sally Lyons, Ann Barnes, Barbara Peters, Greg Wilson, Sherry Ann Repetti, Tammy Manarino. I'm trying. Did I miss anyone? Oh, Lynn. Yes, I'm sorry, Lynn.
I'm a senior member.
You were on there from the start. And Phyllis.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll get communication to you on the call-in information. Did I miss anybody else? Or if you plan to drop out of the committee, which I hope you don't, contact me personally. But I look forward to working with each of you once we get this up and going again. Thank you. That's the end of my report.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Over to Bob with a resident curator.
Sure, a short report tonight. The curator's upcoming projects at the Hannafy, Clark, and Yeti properties includes interior painting. The application for the Lost Lady Valley was withdrawn. As a result, the evaluation process has ended and the property will be advertised at a later date. Planning, development of staff, and drafting of the RCP lease for the service source at Elmore Farmhouse, and is working towards the BOS public hearing before the end of the calendar year. Upon the BOS approval of the lease, Service Source will submit its special exception application for its proposed nonprofit use of the site. Full RCP lease commencement will be contingent upon SE approval, special exception approval. The curator at the Turner Farmhouse continues with improvements to the farmhouse interior and will be resubmitting her special exception application shortly. Upcoming projects at the Simpson House include master bathroom renovation and finishing painting interior trim. And the last thing on the list is that staff continues to work with park operations to install utilities at the Barrett House. That's the septic system that has been installed with final tests and health department approval pending. Electricity install and connection with its is currently underway. So that's the report at this point. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Bob.
All right.
What a great program. Over to Ann Barnes and bylaws. Oh, she's not here. When's our meeting? There's definitely a bylaws meeting coming up. I think it's on the 19th.
Correct.
Monday the 19th at 7:30. So that's good to know. And Lynn, history conference followed by awards.
Okay, got a lot to cover here, and I think the best way for me to do this is to do a screen share. I've just sent a chat to Denise to let her know that I need to be able to do that. And can I do that the same way I do it as we run our small meetings?
Yep, just give me a second, Lynn, and I'll pass you the ball.
All right, that's fine. I'll just keep on talking then. All right, our last meeting was the 27th of September. We had Mike Irwin has asked to continue to be a member of our conference committee, even though he has stepped off the commission. Yeah, and he's just a strong member, and I'm really happy we still have him and his interest and his energy. Mary was there, Liz was there, Cheryl was there, I was there, Esther was there, and I've sent a couple of you chat messages tonight about whether or not you want to stay on the committee, because we need to have a quorum when we get together, and if you're not able to stay on the committee, it would kind of mess up our quorum if you stayed on but didn't really participate. So if you can let me know what your thoughts are, we'd certainly love to have you, because we have a lot going on and a whole lot to do before our history conference. So at our last meeting, we talked through a whole lot of different things. And the way I think I'm going to do this best is to walk you through, do a screen share here with you so you can see. Oh dear, where is my, it's not there. Hang on, let me take some things down here. So it's these two events. Just had it up. Give me just a minute. I want to show you what our agenda looks like. I'll tell you what, can you all see this? I can walk you through what the brochure looks like. Can you see this? Anybody?
No, we can't see your screen, Lynn.
Okay, why is that not working?
There we go.
Got it?
Yep.
Yay! Okay, this is still in draft form. This is our brochure. It is still under construction. We've got some wonderful suffragist pictures here. Our afternoon of the conference, as you may remember, is going to be devoted to the African American suffragist presence. And we've got some wonderful speakers for that piece of the program. I do want to call your attention, if your screen should be fully the brochure. Take a look at the top picture with all the flags and all the suffragists being very, very happy for having just gotten the right to vote. Look at that building. Look at it closely. Look at that Gothic arch. Anybody want to hazard a guess other than a committee member where that building is and what is it? In Washington, D.C. Okay, it's late. I'll tell you. This is the old post office pavilion. This is now what is known as the Trump Hotel. So I thought it was kind of fun to include that one. So let me walk you through content here. It's our 16th.
Pardon me, Lynn.
Yes, darling.
Can you blow up the screen?
We try. That help?
Not yet.
That's as big as I can get it here.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, that's as big as I can get it. I'm sorry. So we're going to be doing 2 virtual sessions. This has been a lot of work. Channel 16 has been phenomenal in working with us. My compadre over there is a lovely, lovely woman who I've had the chance to work with now. We had a long conversation the other day. So committee members, this is going to be some new information for you too. A woman named Fran Gustada Zanieri, I probably just completely butchered her last name, but she is our contact person for everything having to do with the 14th of November. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when I go over the agenda in a second. So it will be a morning session. It will be an afternoon session. There will be a lunch hour between 12:30 and 2 where we will show the videos from the Lucy Burns Museum. And so far the HD requirements and the size of the video is compatible with what they will have to offer at Channel 16 in the studios. Do know that between each presenter, if there's a live presenter, the studio will be taking about 10 to 15 minutes to sanitize and sterilize everything. Because of COVID, we will only be able to have 2 people in the studio at one time. The links will be on this flyer. I hope to have this flyer done by the first part of next week. Then we'll have a whole month to distribute this. Will be fairfaxcounty.gov/cable. Go to the live stream option and you will be able to check on. I also have been asked to check, and Denise and Liz, I sent you guys an email about this. Do we have any kind of a Facebook presence? Because they could do a Facebook Live component of the program as well.
Yes. So I'm sorry, I thought you were CC'd on the email. I think DPD has coordinated with the Channel 16 contact.
Okay.
Whose name I'm completely blanking on.
Oh, the channel 6, it's either Pam Gardner or Fran.
It's not Pam. I know Pam. So whoever that other person was. But yes, we are coordinating with them.
Okay, perfect. Now, what would be helpful, I'll circle back with Fran. We will need to have that Facebook link to also put on this brochure when it goes out so people can see it. If they live outside of the county, that's what they will use. Or if you live within the county, it's just Cox 1016 high definition. All right, the theme is Votes for Women, the rest of our story, meaning all of the people involved, the passage of the 19th Amendment. Mary, you're wonderful at picking up little editorial issues, so just make notes and we'll discuss them at our next meeting, which I do want to make sure I mention tonight, which is next week. It's going to be Tuesday, the 13th, 7:30. It'll be another WebEx. And Denise, I think I've gotten information to you and on time for that. Let me know if you need anything else. And then, so the first page of the brochure is going to have all the pictures and then a description of who the speakers are. I'll go over that in a minute when I talk about the agenda. Page 2 will be kind of interesting, more suffragist graphics. And then here and beyond, we will have, and this is still kind of being worked out, bios, books, information links, kind of as we used to give out with registration confirmations when people were registering for the history conference. I do know right now this is a little forward into the awards, but after we talk about awards tonight, I'll also need to be getting pictures from the nominees, and we won't put that information on here, but that is something that we will include in the conference. We will do a verbal acknowledgement of winners. All right, so that's a general look at what the brochure is going to look like. Esther, you said you'd be happy to help me. Fran has taken this information. She has a graphics team that's beginning to work with it, so we can have maybe a logo to send out as attached to other items within the county. All right, so let me exit that and see if I can bring up my other agenda. Here we go. All right, can you all see that? Yes, Barbara Naif is saying yes. Okay, Barbara, we miss you, by the way. All right, so this will look very familiar to some of you that are committee members, the famous matrix here. The times have been intentionally left blank because Fran is going through this to determine where we can start and stop to allow for the kinds of COVID cleansing that we will need to do in the studio. But quickly, McKay will be a remote or a pre-tape, so will Connolly, remote or pre-tape, which will be very helpful. Hopefully we can get Paul Gilbert to make time for us to be on site. Last I heard is I believe he can. And this is where we'll do the announcement of the History Commission award winners. And that obviously will be done on site. This is the lineup for the moment. And Bob, I think you know about this. If you don't, we can talk about it offline. That you and Pat will be telling the story that Pat tells as part of the Turning Point Suffragist Memorial. So it'll be a nice segue between Paul and the two of you. Then Alice Reagan will talk about the reality of the suffragists in DC. She will be remote. Bob, you and Pat would be remote. Mary, you are going to be on site because you've got two pieces to present. And Mary will wrap up our morning with the untold stories of those who still could not vote even after the passage of the 19th Amendment. Then lunchtime will be the Lucy Burns videos. Worked with Kanina Spalding on this. She's very excited to be of support. In the afternoon, whole theme of the afternoon, pretty much, except for the very end wrap up, will be the African American suffragists. And I'm really happy, given all things considered right now this year, that this is a component of our, thank you, Barbara, of our conference. So a lovely woman who some of you may or may not have remembered. She won an award this year within the county for an outstanding pioneering woman, Cipriana McCrae. She's also a good friend of mine. She's going to talk about the African American suffragist. We're going to work very hard to make sure her content does not overlap in any way in any great depth over our next presenter, who is a very lively woman named Dr. Thelma Daly, who's the past president of the Delta Sigma Theta sorority. For those of you that really know your suffragist history, you know that the Deltas were part of that first march on the 3rd of March in 1913, and sadly, one of Alice Paul's most embarrassing decisions, I think, was to ask them to march at the back of the parade. Many of them did not pay attention to that admonishment and marched forward. So a lot of good things came out of that Delta Sigma Theta presence and the good work that they did as suffragists. Then we'll wrap up the afternoon with a piece from Mary Lipsey on the power of public opinion, both pro, both con. She's got some really nice cartoons and information for how people try to push back against the amendment, which is interesting because it's a wonderful parallel to some of what we're dealing with right now. And then the very last piece you'll get to hear for just a few minutes from suffragist Mrs. Robert Walker, who'll give a mini review and a send off into the future for what she hopes will happen as a result of this 19th Amendment passing. Mike Irwin is working with SurveyMonkey to see if we can get some kind of a survey, because our evaluations are always helpful and always well completed. During some of the cleanup time between presenters, if we have to shut down the studio, we will probably have on the screen some trivia suffragist questions, since that seems to be our theme from past conferences. We will have a backdrop. I've seen what the studio is going to look like. We'll have 3 panels. The center panel on the back will have a replica of the banner that had the stars on both sides, the gold and the purple. And so that will be part of our backdrop. Our next meeting, as I said, is Tuesday the 13th at 7:30. We'll also be scrolling through at break time beyond just trivia, people who've been exhibitors in the past. So if you know of someone whose name ought to be on kind of a scrolling list, please get back to me. These are some of the folks that we have right now. Bull Run, Virginia Room, hopefully Chris, somebody from Virginia Room can get me a logo. Cindy Bennett from Burke Historical Society, Friends of Huntley, Fairfax Museum, Visitor Center, Stuart Mosby, Carol Herrick, Mary Lipsey, Chuck Morrow, Elise with Historic Fairfax, Frying Pan Park, Franconia, the Genealogical Society, and Greg, I forgot if you were going to be a yay or a nay on this one. I have a funny feeling I think I remember nay, and Steve Sherman, you with the HMS. So that is what a quick.
Protect conditions for every American.
What's that? I don't know who just spoke because I don't have pictures of you guys. All right, I won't worry about that. All right, anything else? Conference committee that I have left out? Mary, Esther, Liz, anything that I didn't talk about? I said I would. I'm guessing not. Make sure.
Who's wearing the purple sashes?
Hopefully the presenters. So that's something we can talk about in committee about how to get them there. Pat Worth has just a whole bunch of them, and that worked nicely when I did the piece with Loudoun County. Everybody had a sash on them and kind of gave it a sense of continuity. So we can talk about that a little bit on Tuesday. I've talked about the county cable, public link, how to access. All right, I've done all that. Let me segue into awards. Already mentioned that I'll need the picks. What I do need tonight is an affirmation from the commission to give out awards, and I will tell you what they are in just a minute, that have been nominated. We will announce the names, but I will need to let these people know in the next couple of weeks so that they can be ready to tune in or be ready to do whatever they need to do. And Greg Wilson has generously offered to help me write up the text to these markers because it gets a little time consuming as we get close to the conference. All right, here's who the awards will be going to. Will be Tody Carnes. I know you all remember her. She did a beautiful, beautiful video about the Mount Huntley View Shed. She has self-nominated herself for the Mayo Stunts Award. And Anne, do you happen to remember how long that video is? You happen to remember is it over 10 minutes or is it just under?
I think it's about 12, Lynn, but I'm
Is
not
it?
sure.
Okay, because I've left Tody a message to find out for sure. But whatever time length of it is, the recipient gets $300 if it's under 10 minutes, or $700 if it's over 10 to 30 to up to 90 minutes. And I somehow remembered it was right around 10. So we will need to be setting out information about that. And Denise, you and I can talk about how to get that W-9 out. Actually, maybe Barbara Peters, you and I will need to be talking about that because that would come out of our commission monies. So that is one award. We do have the Jack Hiller Award is now up on the website. Greg Wilson nominated Heather Bollinger and Katerina Krompaski for Distinguished Service Awards. And I know I've gone over some of this in prior meetings, so I won't go into huge detail. Carol Herrick has nominated Mary Ann Hampton, John Ryan, and the Shouse Village 50th Anniversary Committee for their good work done last year. A Distinguished Service Award also for them of their outstanding work in 2019 for creating a celebratory event to be shared with other citizens in that area of the county and the public of Shouse Village. And they left us with a very nice nomination form. So that is, I believe, all I have for awards right now. Elise, I know you're on this committee too. Elise, Greg, Steve, Jordan, anything else? Cheryl, I think you're on this committee too. Anything else I may have left out?
Lynn, it's great. Can you say any more about the timing, working back from when we need to present these?
Well, we'll be doing them verbally, and then I don't know any other way to do this, but we can further discuss this in committee, is that they will have to be sent out in the mail. They will be announced at the beginning of the conference. We won't have that moment as we're used to with Jeff and Jerry shaking hands and having a photo op. That will not happen, and I feel very bad about that, but I do want to have pictures to be able to show on the screen. Oh, but that does remind me, one thing that Channel 16 can do is embed PowerPoints. They can embed video. So, I mean, they're very, very skilled folks. Did I answer your question, Greg?
Yeah, well, yes and no. I was thinking about when do you need the drafts back?
Oh, you and I can talk about that offline.
Yeah, okay. And
Don't
then, is there a way, so they can't interact when this is going on, so can we get at least their pictures in advance?
Yes, that's what I need to do next.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah.
We'll take it offline. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's all right. And I really appreciate your offer to help. That means a lot. And
you, Sue.
will help a
Lynn?
lot too. Yes.
Would you please send me a list of the names and the amounts of the awards?
Okay, right now it's just one person that will get a monetary award, and that's Tody Carnes. Her name is T as in Tom, O-D-I.
Okay.
Carnes, C as in cat, A-R, N as in Nancy, E, S as in Sam. And she has designed and researched and produced a Mount Huntley viewshed video, which is absolutely stunning, absolutely stunning. And she has asked whatever her monies are that she is given from the commission, they will be donated to the Huntley Meadows Park. So she will kind of give back.
Okay, well, because that's going to make a difference if she's accepting the award and then she's making that donation, or whether she is asking that the donation or that the award money go directly to Huntley Meadows. So I need to know the total.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Amount and
that
how
makes
she
sense.
wants to handle that,
Sure,
or an
sure,
email.
Sure. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong here, I believe it might be easier if she gets the money and then she takes care of it on her own.
No,
Because
well, I mean, there is a big difference.
okay, so you and I can talk about that offline.
Okay.
Too. Let's make sure we clarify that so we can advise her as to what makes sense.
Right.
I think that's good. Okay, I think that's pretty much all I have. Jordan, I do want to do a public apology to you. I think I threw a little water on your suggestion for the matching monies for the library. I did not intend to do that, but I know the angst that I went through. Don Sinise was very important to me. He really mentored me when I came on, and it was so hard to go back to the family and say, no, we can't accept the money that in the way that
Yeah.
you're presenting. So anyway, just know that was a
Yeah,
heartfelt.
no problem. I think it's a legitimate issue to raise, and we'll find out how, what we need to do. Yeah, what the requirements are, right?
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I think everybody, that is it.
Okay. Thank you, Lynn. That's going to be a very exciting day, November 14th. I look forward to it.
Well, you know, we put so much work into this year, Anne. Oh, my Lord. I don't think I've ever worked so hard for a conference before. Anyway.
Well, you always work really hard.
Well,
so.
It's not just me. It's the team.
Mary on cemeteries. Mary, are you with us?
I'm here. I'm sorry. I'm here. I don't have anything specific to report except there have been lots of requests from DAR chapters to do preservation in cemeteries. So I'll be doing that on Columbus Day weekend. And unfortunately, there's been some illegal dumping at the Marshall Cemetery in Burke, and I'm working with Pat Harity's office. One thing we're going to try and work on at minimum is to get illegal dumping signs around the entrances to the park. But have a very nice young man, Michael Perez, who is working with us on that. That's it.
Good. Good. Thank you. Thanks, Mary. Advocacy, Carol.
Advocacy did not meet.
Okay, thank you. Elise, ARB.
In the interest of brevity, I will provide you with a big long report for the last 3 ARB meetings plus tomorrow's in advance of the next meeting so that you can read it and ask me questions at your leisure. Also, I am your representative on the Homes Run Acre work group as well as the Holland Hills. So next month, before Denise takes my report on that issue, I will make a report. Thank you.
We'll have to schedule you for right before Denise. That'll get her. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Cheryl, anything on website?
I do not think so. Obviously, we're going to have to add our new commissioner. So I'll ask Sue for that contact information, but I don't think there's anything that from previously.
Okay, good. Thank you. I on my version of the agenda, but not on anybody else's, I have added a new report, which we might not have today, but I think we were thinking about it today and talking about it. I call it Fairfax City. And so I don't know if, I mean, come on, have you ever asked a mayor to make some remarks and he says, oh no, I have nothing to say? I thought you might want to just express, if you're still with us, David, any comments on anything that we're interested in that's going on in your fair city? Is he here? I warned him I might do this, so he might have left in a huff.
I think he left, Anne.
I don't see him,
I
right?
didn't see him.
Okay, well, we were talking, was it you and me, Denise? We were saying how there's all these interesting things happening in Fairfax City, and we meet when we do meet right in the middle of Fairfax. So, and there's all these interesting things happening, things being torn down, people being accused of wanting or not wanting a monument. So, you know, he may have some interesting reports to give us in the future. Okay, so I think if everybody's done with their reports and their business, we're down to announcements. So make some noise if you have something to say. I see some movement on Barbara Naif.
I want to take this opportunity to thank Chris and Denise for all of the hours and hours and hours that they are putting forth on behalf of the commission's assignment. Bless you all. So I just they need to be recognized because they're doing incredible work. So we wouldn't have gotten this far and we wouldn't be this close to having everything turned in if it weren't for Chris. Thank you for all the commissioners that are working, but Chris has he's there with all the information. And so I thank everybody, but I really do want to put an extra thanks into Denise and to Chris. So that's it. Thank you.
Hey, Ann, I've got two things. It's Lynn, unless you're waiting for somebody else. I just want, and maybe I'm jumping ahead on this. I don't know. I just performed Angelina Grimke, and she just came out on a YouTube for the city of Fairfax. I was happy with it, how it turned out. There were a couple little things that I might have said differently next time, but I was pleased to actually have an audience. We had a great Q&A afterwards, which I was able to backfill with good information. And we all collectively sang to a beautiful video showing slaves, cotton fields, lashes, and a wonderful timeline of photographs with the lyrics on top, ending with President Obama, lift every voice and sing. It was just fantastic. It was a really very heartfelt and very timely. I'll get you guys the link for it.
You did, Ann.
Ann is muted.
Did I hear? Are we done? Okay, I'm not seeing any.
I'd like to just remind everyone to vote.
Yes, thank you. We will. Everybody's been waiting for hours, which is too bad. All right, well, it's wonderful to see everybody.
Who made the announcement to vote? Who made the announcement? Who made the
Barbara Peters.
Okay, thank you.
I got it. Okay, good. This was a great meeting. I'm sorry it went too long, but we'll get better someday. I appreciate everybody's participation and enthusiasm, and thank you very much. And we will see each other as a whole in a month and see each other at lots of meetings this month. So thank you. We are, let me get my gavel. We are adjourned. It's really just a hammer.